Hey guys, Winaway here. Today we'll be looking into making a PvP build on Ascension WoW from scratch. That's right, I'll be walking you through the fundamentals of making a meta-viable PvP build. Now, let's first have a look at the kind of character we'll be working with. We'll be seeing this character in the upcoming build videos that I'll be making as well. This is the TBC Alpha server, therefore to make it as closely represent Medivh, the League server, as possible, we have fewer items equipped so that we get a total of about 550 SP, and for the AP version around 750 AP. This roughly equates to the level 58 rare PvP gear that you can get on Medivh right now. In this video, I won't be getting into random enchants as this is meant to cover only the fundamentals. I'll make a separate video covering REs, so make sure to subscribe and press the bell icon to know when that video is up. Also, smash that like button and leave a comment down below and let me know what kind of builds you'd be interested in me covering. With that out of the way, let's jump right into the fundamentals of a PvP build. We'll start with the spells and abilities that you need to pick for PvP regardless of your build. We'll continue with core abilities to have your build revolve around right after. I will categorize these must-haves into 4 categories, and after we are through listing them, I'll show you how to better combine them together too. The first among which would be defensive cooldowns. These are the ones that you pop to save yourself. The second would be offensive cooldowns. Those are the ones that you press to score the kill or exert significant pressure. Mobility, which are gap or distance creation or gap closing abilities. And finally, last but not least, CC. Do bear in mind that CCs can also be used offensively and defensively, of course. Now, defensive CDs. These are the self-cast abilities that are used in emergencies to help you survive, through healing yourself, mitigating, or preventing damage. Examples would be Frenzied Regeneration, Deterrence, Ice Block, Divine Shield, Dispersion, Evasion, Shield Wall, and Retaliation. Some of these can be quite versatile, and you could argue that they could also be used offensively, and some of them have some nice added benefits, say like Dispersion and its mana regeneration. Ideally, you'd want to have about 2 to 3 DCDs on average, depending on how many abilities you have in the other categories. The most popular, yet at the moment also the most expensive picks, are Divine Shield and Dispersion. Divine Shield is popular for a reason. It allows for a complete reset where you can simply heal yourself to the full. You could even use it offensively to finish off an opponent who is equally low as you are on HP without you dying first. Be wary of Shattering Throw and Mass Dispel, as these are direct counters to Divine Shield, though even then you'll have a second or 2 of use out of it, possibly managing to cast at least 1 bursty heal in the process. So it won't be a total waste of AE, but it's a very expensive option currently, setting you back by 6 ability essence. Moving on to offensive CDs, these are your massive damage boosts, finishes, the abilities that seal the deal. Examples would be Bladestorm, Killing Spree, Starfall, Death Wish, Berserk, Arcane Power, Feral Spirit, and Summon Trend or Fungarians. Depending on how many you can accommodate in your build, you'd want 1 or 2 of these on average, maybe 3 maximum. One thing to note here would be that some of these could also be used defensively, especially Killing Spree for that iframe, Feral Spirit for the heal, and Bladestorm or Berserk for the fear resistance. Jumping to mobility. These are super important for melee, range, and casters alike. If you're melee, you really want to be able to stick to your opponent. If you're a caster or a range build, you really want to make sure that the melees can't stick to you. Gap creation and gap closing is an integral part of PvP in World PvP, Battlegrounds and arenas alike. It's crucial in every situation and allows you to either get away from an uneasy situation or ensures that you score that kill and not let them slip away. Prime examples are Blink, Feral and Normal Charge, Intercept, Shadow Step, all knockbacks like Blast Wave, Typhoon and Thunderstorm, as well as Disengage, Dash and Sprint. The purpose of these are obvious, but it's no surprise that Blink comes out on top of all the others given its ability to break stuns, which is crucial in PvP. However, that's also reflected onto its price, a whopping 5 ability essence cost. so do consider that for your build economy. Last but not least, the ones that make or break fights, crowd control. You have an overwhelming amount of options here, but do not let that fool you, for there are diminishing returns. I'll go over the DR categories briefly to ensure that your CC ability coupling makes sense and is not a total waste of AE. We have 13 DR categories, meaning if you use 2 abilities within the same category consecutively, you'll suffer DR. Therefore, make sure to only pick 1 or 2 within the same category and allow some time between the use of each. Do not spam them, else you'll be suffering diminishing returns in terms of the duration of your CC. Your first CC will of course have its full duration. Second CC to follow that will have half the duration. The third, only a quarter. And finally, the fourth and any other consecutive CC will not work at all, as your target will become rendered immune to the same CC category. In order to prevent this, make sure that 20 seconds have elapsed after your first CC has completely expired. Even though DR occurs within 15 seconds after the end of your last CC, the server checks for this in periods of 5 seconds each, meaning it could range anywhere between 15 to 20 seconds for the server to realize that your CC has come to an end. To be on the safe side, stick to 20 seconds. Instead, change CCs from different categories to ensure that their uptime is the maximum it can be, consistently. If you really must, make sure to use the longer duration CCs first and the shorter ones after. Since DR is a portion of the CC, therefore losing 50% of 2 seconds is better than losing 50% of 6 seconds. A prime example of this would be Kidney Shot followed by War Stomp versus War Stomp followed by Kidney Shot. In the first scenario, you would only be losing 1 second from the War Stomped, which would be half of the 2-second War Stomped CC duration. Whereas in the second example, you will be losing half of your Kidney Shot since it comes second, which is a whopping 2.5 seconds. At the end, in net, you would have lost 1.5 seconds more should you opt for the second option. Back to the DR categories. These are Controlled Stun, Silence, Disorient, Fear, Controlled Root, Disarm, Random Root, Random Stun, Horror, Opener Stun, Slows, Interrupts, and None, which is the spells in this category being DRs on themselves. Now, for those who are not so familiar with WoW DRs, do not let these overwhelm you. I'll explain in a simple manner. I will separate these into 2 classifications: Hard CC, which cause total loss of control of your character, and Soft CC, which inhibit control of a specific function or a certain aspect of your character. Hard CCs are any of the stuns, disorients, fears, horrors, whereas all the others would be classified as soft CCs, which would be your silences, roots, disarms, slows, and interrupts. Let's get these soft CCs out of the way first. Silences are self-explanatory. They prevent your opponent from casting any spells for the duration of this silence. Now, I'm going to cover silences and interrupts together, since most of the silences also double as an interrupt. Silence is a priest talent ability you could get for 3 AE 1 TE at the moment, with a 45-second cooldown and a 4-second duration. If you can afford the 2 TE for the talent, you could get Counterspell for also 3 AE with a 30-second cooldown instead and 3-second duration. It also interrupts for 5 seconds. Avenger's Shield is a niche option on the other hand, where you would need, well, a shield, which would cost you 3 AE and a whopping 4 TE for a guaranteed silence of 3 seconds with a 30-second cooldown. Although bear in mind, this is multiple targets. You also have Silencing Shot for 3 AE 1 TE lasting 2 seconds and with a CD of 25 seconds. This also interrupts for 2 seconds, but that's the same duration as a silence, so it's not noteworthy. Improved Kick 3 AE 2 TE, 10-second cooldown, 3-second duration, also 4-second interrupt. Together with the talent, you also get this 3-second silence, which is very, very useful. And bear in mind, Kick is by far the best interrupt out there, all things considered. Garrote needs stealth, no CD, 2 AE, 3-second duration. Shield Bash with Gag Order, 3 AE, 2 TE, 3-second silence with 12-second CD, similar to Kick but requires a shield, also has a 4-second interrupt. and Wind Shear, which is just an interrupt of 2 seconds for 4 AE, but a range one with a 18-second cooldown that goes down to 12 seconds if you successfully interrupt a spell with it. If you're melee, just get Kick. It's amazing, as mentioned earlier, especially with the talent if you can afford it, but even without, hands down, best interrupt in the game and on such a low CD. If you're a caster or range, things get a bit tougher. There's a reason why Wind Shear is so expensive right now, because everyone uses it, and again, low cooldown is really good for interrupts. Counterspell and Silence are also options, but Silence is on such a long cooldown. I would most likely opt for Wind Shear, sucking up the AE cost if I can, because being able to consistently and frequently interrupt is invaluable in PvP. Alternatively, I'd go for Silencing Shot for a slightly lower cooldown and as a more economical alternative to Counterspell, as well as the longer range 35 yards as opposed to 30 yards of Counterspell and Silence. Now onto Roots. There are some gimmicks here with Entangling Roots talents in Balance Tree, Nature's Grasp, as well as Ice Barrier, Frostbite and Frost Shock talent route. If you're going for a Frosty build, be sure to consider these. Apart from these, there's Pin, a pet route, and that's pretty much it. Roots can be useful, but make sure that it blends in well into the rest of your build, as, say, having to cast Entangling Roots might steal precious time from other activities, and Ferals can always get out of Roots. Now, for disarms, you have Scorpid into Chimera Shot, as well as Psychic Horror for ranged, Disarm for melee. There are also some talents and REs, but I won't get into that much detail in this video. Disarms are especially useful against heavy melee and of course Blade Storm. As for slows, there are a plethora of slows in the game. What it really boils down to is 1. How cheap the slow is for you, and how consistently can you keep it up. Usually passive or on proc slows that don't cost you anything are preferred. These are mostly talents though, such as Infected Wounds, Deadly Brew, Waylay, and Blade Twisting. Notable abilities are Frostbrand Weapon, Frostbolt, Slow, Daze from Chimera, Blast Wave, Conflagrate, and the likes. Slow is great for maintaining the gap you've created or closed. As you remember, maintaining or keeping your distance is key. Try to incorporate slows into your existing damaging abilities, or have them occur passively to ensure that you do not need to waste global cooldown on them, unless it's something like Slow, which in itself can be a very useful ability covering many areas, reducing attack and casting speed in the process too, and you can also use it as a melee when you're charging towards your opponent without wasting any other GCD. A great slow that incorporates damage, has no cast time, and a potential route is Frost Shock. Make sure to consider it if you're looking for an effective slow in your build, especially if you're a hybrid or a caster. A good AoE slow would be Cone of Cold or Earthbind Totem. Piercing Howl on the other end is usually not preferred as a feral build or melee alike. Since there are way too many slows in the game, I've just tried to give you an idea of what to look for. If you please, you can get in game and type in Hero Architect the word Slow, Daze or Movement and see what pops up that might be of interest to you both as talents and abilities. That does it for the soft CCs. Now let's go over the real deal, hard CC category. As a reminder, hard CCs are any of these stuns, disorients, fears, and horrors. There is no doubt that the most popular CCs are hard CCs. As a result, with the transition to dynamic AE cost system, many of them saw an increase to their AE costs, some by quite a lot. We'll start with everyone's old school favorite, stuns. Now, opener stuns like Pounce and Cheap Shot do not count as normal stuns. Therefore, you can chain normal stuns into these without having to worry about DR. If you're Tauren, your War Stomp counts as a stun and must be used last if at all possible in any kind of situation, if you happen to have another stun, since it only lasts 2 seconds and it's better to eat up the DR on this 2-second duration than on any other longer stuns out there. The most popular choice for casters and anyone who'd like to stun from afar is Shadow Fury. This gem comes in 45-second cooldown and stuns for 3 whopping seconds, setting you back 3 AE and 1 talent essence. Deep Freeze is another option if you have access to Frost Nova, Frostbite or Frost Shock route through talents. 4-second stun with 30-second CD costing 4 AE and 1 talent essence, but do consider the AE and TE costs of other abilities and talents needed to set this up. We have our pet stuns such as Sonic Blast, Ravage and Intimidation. Must-haves if you're running a tame pet, not a demon. There's also 2-second bash on feral spirit wolves. If you are a bear, you must take bash with its insane 5.9 second duration after talents. It's a no-brainer on such a short CD too. You can even further bring down the CD with REs down to almost nothing, giving it about 40% uptime, which is insane. Intercept is another stun that you can talent for lower CD and also use Heroic Fury to reset. Also usable in Druid forms and Metamorphosis. Other stuns include Hammer of Justice, Kidney Shot, Demon Charge in Metamorphosis, Concussion Blow and Shockwave, all good stuns for melee builds. Just make sure to pick one, maximum 2 stuns due to diminishing returns, again unless it's coupled with an opener stun. Next up, disorients. These are super useful to reset a fight or to cast a big bursted damage spell without your opponent being able to react, as they tend to be longer in terms of duration, but any damage caused will wake up your target. Therefore, do not use these in dot builds unless your intention is to reset and heal up, where you can also reliably remove the set dots to prevent immediate waking. These are Freezing Trap, Wyvern Stink, Dragon's Breath, Polymorph, Repentance, Gouge and Sap. Wyvern and Repentance are quite popular for ranged, whereas Gouge is truly indispensable for melee builds, coming at such a low CD and coupled with the talent increasing its duration. Last but not least, we have Fears and Horrors, which are mentioned together, although they are separate DR categories. To get the Horrors out of the way, there's only Psychic Horror and Death Coil. These are both very popular spells and for a good reason. Psychic Horror, as mentioned earlier in disarms your target for 7 full seconds after making them tremble and horror for 3 seconds. 2 minutes CD with a 30-yard casting range, it costs you 3 AE and 1 talent essence, whereas Death Coil costing you 4 AE and again 30-yard range heals you for 3 times the damage it deals, which is not too shabby. Again 2-minute cooldown and horrors for 3 seconds. Both of these are instant cast and are great emergency buttons. If you can afford, you could of course pick both of these and use within 23 seconds of each other, meaning you could cast Death Coil, then wait 23 seconds including its own duration, then use Psychic Horror to suffer no DR. As for the fears, there's of course Fear, 10 second duration, 20 yard range, 1.5 second cast down to 1.2 second cast with 2 talent essences, which also slows for 15% for 5 seconds after Fear. And then there's Blind, which is a 3-minute cooldown, lasting 10 second, 10 yard range, but instant cast ability. There are the AoE fears, Psychic Screen for 4 AE, 40 second cooldown, down to 30 seconds with 2 talent points investment, fears up to 2 targets around you for 6 seconds. Intimidating Shout, 3 AE, 40 second cooldown, fears up to 5 targets for 6 seconds, and also usable in forms and metamorphosis. Howl of Terror, 3 AE, 40 second cooldown with a 1.5 second cast time, down to instant with 2 TE investment, fears 5 enemies for 5 seconds. And of course you have Seduction via your Succubus, as well as these specialty fears such as Scare Beast and Turn Evil meant for pets and demons. Alright, that pretty much sums up the 4 categories that you should pay attention to when you're first starting your PvP build. Now in the next video, I'll be making a template melee build using these guidelines, starting with our 4 category abilities. So make sure to stay tuned for that video. And smash that like button and comment down below to let me know what other template you'd like to see after that. Ranged, perhaps a specific caster, or a pet build. Also make sure to subscribe and click on that bell to get notified once the next video is up. Maybe it's the one that you requested down in comments. And just to talk earnestly for a second guys about the current situation, the channel still needs to go a long way till my videos can start getting monetized. This is something I've taken into consideration, especially with the ongoing pandemic. The sooner we can get the monetization up and running, the sooner I can shift more of my focus onto this channel, and additional content also on other platforms. Of course, all this will be possible with your help and support. All it takes is to like my videos, subscribe, and share with others if you believe these videos have added some value to you and therefore you feel comfortable letting others know about this channel too. I would really appreciate your support and your feedback. Reach out to me over Discord or in comments down below and let me know what I could do better when it comes to the videos as well as the streams over at Twitch. And speaking about Twitch, all that remains for me to become a Twitch affiliate are more followers. It would be of great help if you could simply click on the link down in the description, head over to my Twitch channel and simply press on follow. As I said, all other goals towards becoming an affiliate have already been achieved, and all that remains in my way is just my follower count, so greatly appreciated. Hope you liked the video and found it to be useful, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
You